Hi everyone, my name is Akorede Adenike. If you are new on this channel, you are highly welcome. Consider subscribing and don't forget to turn on the notification bell for you to be notified each time I upload new video. If you are my old subscribers, I really appreciate you for coming back to my channel. Thank you so much. In this tutorial today, I would like to teach you how to cut and sew this beautiful illusion neckline showing on the screen, which is an asymmetric neckline. Here is a pattern of it. I've made the pattern in my previous video. I'm going to put the link in the box below for you guys to see. So I'm making the cutting and the sewing of the upper part today because I'm focusing on the upper part of the dress. These pieces are for my front part. As you can see now, this is the side, the asymmetric illusion neckline we are talking about, and this is the another side of it. So here is my back part too. I have 2 pieces of the back here, and here I have 5 pieces of the front part here. So I'm going to cut it on the fabric now. These are the material I'm using for the tutorial today. I'm using this net. This is my gum stay that I'm using today. Is of medium weight. If you like, you can use ear stay with your gum stay just to make it firm and stand very well. This is the fabric I'm using for the tutorial today. One of the African print is Ankara fabric. I'm using this matching lining too for my fabric. So now if I'm cutting my back, I'll just fold my fabric into 2 like this and place it on it and cut it out, since my back is the same shape. But as for the front, I'll just spread my fabric like this. I'm going to spread it like this. This is the right side of my fabric now, and I'm going to place all the pieces on it except the illusion yoke. I'll just put it aside for me to cut it on the net. So all the remaining pieces, I'm going to place it on the right side like this and cut them out. So when I finish all the cutting, I'll come and show you what's next. As for the illusion, lest I forget, this is the net I'm using for it. Here is the net I'm using for it. But I'm going to iron it out first before I place my pattern on it and cut it out. Make sure you do so, please, to make it accurate on each other. You know, this net is a tissue net. You can call it skin net as well. So I'm going to iron it out first before placing my yoke on it and cut it out. Now I'm done cutting my fabric and the lining, as you can see now, and I've gone the interfacing to the lining and the fabric too. So I added, this is my front part, all the pieces that I have for the front part. I added 1/2 inch all through it, but the side I added 1.5 inch to both sides. As you can see now, this is the the asymmetric illusion neckline we are talking about, the yoke. I cut the net for it and I added 1/2 inch all through it. So here's the back part of it. I added 1/2 inch all through the neckline, the shoulder and the armhole curve, the waistline. I added waistline on the front part too. So this side too, I added 1.5 to it as well. So I have 2 pieces of back part here. So let me put this one aside. Let me put the back aside and start my sewing with the front. And before removing your pattern paper, make sure you notch all the necessary area. That will be as a guide for you while sewing it. Make sure you notch it. So the bust point chest line and the under bust line, make sure you notch it on the fabric and as well on the net too. Now after notching all the necessary area, just notch it with 1/4 inch, and on the fabric to make sure, on the lining to make sure you notch all the necessary area that I talked about. And now that I'm done notching, I'm going to remove all the pattern and put my yoke away, put it aside. So I'll now start by, and this is the lining, I'm going to place the fabric on each other like this. Let the notching align on each other. This is the right side of my lining too. I'm going to place it on each other like this. Let the right side face each other and start the sewing from the bottom of it, just like this. And I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch from here to the upper part here. I'm going to do the same thing on the lining of this side too. So as for this one too, I'm going to pick fabric for the fabric and lining for the lining, just like this. And I'm starting the stitching from the bottom here. Make sure you let the notching align on each other like this. As you can see, here is the notching for this. So I'm going to stitch with 1/2 inch from the bottom here down to the upper part of it. I'm doing the same thing on the lining too. I'll let the right side face each other like this and start the sewing from the bottom here, from the bottom with 1/2 inch till I get the upper part of it. So I'm doing the same thing on the back part. Here is my back part. I'm going to place the lining on the fabric since it's the same shape. So I'm going to stitch my neckline with 1/2 inch, the back part, the zipper side with 1/2 inch, and the side with 1/2 inch. I'm doing the same thing on the second part of the back. So that I explained, as you can see, here is my back with the lining. I'm going to notch the neckline with 1/4 inch. I'm notching it round. I'm doing the same thing on the second part of it, and I'm going to turn it to the right side. To the right side, here is it. There's one of the back parts. So I'm going to place my pattern on it like this. Let me place it on the right side of the fabric. And make sure you place it very well. Since I've sewn the allowance here, so you just place it like this. And I've sewn the 1/2 inch allowance at the back part here too. So I'm going to place it like this. So it still remain the 1/2 inch on the shoulder slant, armhole, and the waistline, then 1 inch here. So I'm going to mark out my darts easily like this. So here is my dart now. I'm going to turn the second one to the right side, place it on it, and mark it like I did on this one. So that is for the back part. Here's the front part, all the pieces from the front part. This is the lining for them. So I'm going to notch with 1/4 inch all around for it to lay very well when I turn it to the right side. So I'm going to notch this one too. I'm notching the fabric too. So I'm notching it with 1/4 inch all through where the curve is. So after notching, I'm going to iron it out here. I'm going to iron it out, open these and iron it out like this. So I'm doing the same thing on the second part of it and as well on the line. I'm done with all that I've explained. As you can see, here is the back part of it and here is the dart. I've copied it to the second part of the back. As you can see, here is it. So I'll just make a ruling here straight down to meet the second point. I'm doing the same thing here too. I'll make a ruling. So I'll go ahead to my machine and fold it like this. I'm going to fold it like this and make the stitching from the bottom. So stitching from the bottom with 1/2 inch slantly to meet the second point here. Let me roll it out for you guys for the sake of the beginners. So I will just stitch it slantly to meet the second point here. So I'm doing the same thing on the second part of the back. So as for the front, here is it. I've ironed it out. I've opened the same allowance as you can see and ironed it out, both the lining and the fabric. As you can see, here is the lining too. Iron it out, and there is the second one of the lining for the front part. So what I'll just do to the front part now is for me to attach my net to the center front to form that asymmetric illusion neckline we are talking about. Now, so here is the pattern for my net, as you can see. So I'm going to make a notch here where I'm going to join it to the neckline here. I'm making a notch here just to know where I'm joining it at the neckline here with the fabric, as you can see. So I will easily remove the pattern now and go ahead with the joining of my net to the fabric. I'm going to place it like this. As you can see, this is how it is. This is how it's going to be at the end of the day. So I'll just place it like this on the right side of my fabric, stitch from the bottom till I reach where I notched here with 1/2 inch from the bottom here. I'm going to stitch it. Hope you understand. I'm going to stitch it till I reach the neckline here. So after which I'm going to turn it again. After stitching, I'm going to turn it again for me to place this one on top it like this and stitch with 1/2 inch from the bottom till I reach here where my net stops here. So that's just it for the net and the fabric. So when I finish doing that, I'll come and show you. Now I'm done with the back dart. As you can see, I've sewn it. Here's the second part of it. As for the front, I'm done joining the net to the center front, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and join my lining now. It's a little bit tricky, but I'm going to explain in the way you will understand. This one is for this part, as you can see, and this one is for this part. And to make the inside of our upper part to be neat, so I'll take this one now. So I'm going to place, I have to let the right side face each other. So from the bottom here, I'm going to place it like this. Let the right side of this lining face it in like this to make it cover themselves, just like this. From the bottom, hope you can see what I'm doing. Here is the wrong side of my upper part now, and this is the center front, as you can see. So what I will just do is to place this one like this on top the net and the lining. The net and the fabric. Make sure the net is in between the lining and the fabric. So, and I'm going to stitch from the bottom like I explained on the net and the fabric in the first place. So I'll let it follow the shape like this. Make sure the net is in between while sewing, please. It's a little bit tricky, but you have to be careful while sewing it for the net not coming out. So make sure the net is in between till I reach where the net is here. So I'm going to do the same thing on the second part of it. Pick the second part of it as well and place it on the net. Let the net is in between the lining and the fabric, little by little from the bottom here till I reach the neckline where I notched on the net. Now I'm done stitching my lining to the fabric with the net at the center, as you can see. So I'm going to notch. Let me notch the curves before I turn it to the right side. Make sure you notch all the curves. If you are a beginner, please, you can even notch all the curves before you stitch them together to make it easier for you while stitching. But you have to be careful and stitch it gently for net not to remove from the center you put it. The net is in between the fabric and the lining, so you have to be careful while sewing it. So I'm going to turn it to the right side. I'm turning this part to the right side for me to notch the second one too. So I'm going to open this up too for me to notch all the curves. All the curve area. You can notch before stitching it to make it easier for you if you are a beginner. Make sure you notch all the necessary area with 1/4 of an inch. Do not let the notching, do not let it touch the sewing, please. So after turning it to the right side, for me to finish up the neckline at this part, I'm going to turn it like this. You know, I have notched the net here at the neckline. I've notched it with 1/2 inch, so I'll just turn my lining and the fabric on the, I'll let the right side of the lining and the fabric face each other on the neckline here, and make sure the net is not with it. Make sure you push the net out where the notching is and stitch my neckline with 1/2 inch, just like this. Now I'm done with the neckline. As you can see, I've stitched it with 1/2 inch. So I'm going to trim this place to the last, but do not let it touch the sewing part of it, because this place is too tiny. So I have to let it in, but before I let it in, I have to trim it to the last, that it can be enter that place easily. So I'm going to notch round my neckline with 1/4 of an inch, which I've already done. So I'm going to turn it now, but let it in very well. I'm going to turn it so that for me to, and make sure you drag your net easily. You know, it's a very soft net. So I'm going to use my scissors to push it out. And if you have your loop turner, you can use it as well. So I'm going to push it gently and drag my net out gently. You know, I've made a notch there, so it will be easier for me to do that. So I'm pushing it very well for it to come out very well. So now that I've pushed it out, so there is it. And make sure your net is not squeezed. That's why I said it's a little bit tricky, but we have to be careful while sewing it. So as you can see now, so I'll just trim my net to meet up with the neckline. You know, I did not hem this part of the neckline, which I have done here, that I used lining to turn the fabric in. So I'll easily trim that 1/2 inch out of this side now. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and stitch my lining and fabric together on the side here with 1/2 inch, just like this. I'm doing the same thing on the second part of it. Please make sure I put all this in for me to turn this, for me to stitch the lining and the fabric together at the side here. I'm done with both sides, as you can see, but I turned the first side out before I could sew the second side. So I'll go ahead and turn the second side to the right side. So here is it now. And note one thing: if you are stitching your net to this side, do not close up this place. You know, at the end of the day, you are going to fix your sleeve to the place, so do not stitch it closed here. Here is it, as you can see, is open for the armpit. So I've not trimmed out the net on the neckline here. I want to show you how you can easily trim it out to make it neat. You have to be careful and do that gently. If you are a beginner, you can use your tape rule and chalk to chalk it out for you to trim it out perfectly to meet the second side of the net to make it neat. So just careful while trimming it, and make sure your hand is straight. So that's just it. As you can see, it's very nice and beautiful now. So I'll move ahead now by joining the shoulder to each other. Please, this is the back part, one of the back parts. I'm placing it on the right side of the front part. I'm going to open it like this, put this one inside it like this, and let it be in between the lining and the fabric, and stitch with 1/2 inch. So I'm doing the same thing on the second part of it. I'm going to put my net in between the fabric and the lining by me open the shoulder like this, and I'm going to put my net inside it like this, fold it like this, and stitch with 1/2 inch. So I'm done stitching both shoulders, as you can see. So here is the second one. I'm going to push them in now for you to see outside look of it. So here's it now. But make sure you are careful with the net. You know, it's very light. So you may not want to use this kind of net. You can use any type of net you like. That's your choice. So here's the front part, as you can see now, and here is the back part. So I'm going to place it like this for me to stitch the side seam. So with 1 inch, you know, I've used 1/2 inch for the lining. So I'm going to stitch this one too with 1 inch from the armpit here down to the waist line. Now I'm done with the side seams. As you can see, both side seam. Look how neat and beautiful the inside look is, as you can see now. So, and this is the outside look of it. Now here is the beautiful look of the upper part. As you can see, it's very nice and beautiful. You can go ahead and join the down part to it and your desired sleeve. You know, I said I'm focusing on the upper part of it, and here's where I'm stopping for today. If my tutorial has been helpful to you guys, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel to support my channel. If you have any question pertaining to cutting and sewing, you can join me on my Facebook group, Details to Sewing, created by Akorede Adenike. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Akorede Adenike. Please show some love by liking and following my page on Facebook at Akorede Adenike Sewing Tutorial. Till I see you in my next video, guys. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye bye.